Watertown, and I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. Mrs. Palmer. It's hard to believe I've gotten used to it, as it was only a year ago my Joseph and I were married, and only just after my 16th birthday. My, what a present that was. Now, when Joseph was courting me, he asked me which books I'd read, and I said, well, none. As you see, my father had this doctrine on women, that we all must be beautiful, know how to sew a shirt, and know how to make a pudding. And Joseph ne'er called on me without bringing me some new book to read. He taught me philosophy, history, geography, and the like. It's hard to believe two men who both studied at Harvard could have such different views on women. Now, my Joseph has been massively successful as a merchant. He owns 3 warehouses on Long Wharf. He's recently joined the Freemasons and attends many secretive late-night meetings with many of you, leaving me home all alone to take care of my new babe. And we're often hosting dinners with many of you in attendance as well, discussing our lack of representation in our very own home. I can no longer sit idly by and wait to have these conversations, which is what brings me here tonight, with all of you. Now, much like I was encouraged to voice my opinions, I encourage you to voice your opinions now. So if you hear something you agree with, I encourage you to stomp your feet like so. Yes! Or make fun of you. If you feel vocal, you can let out a hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Or well said.
Well said.
I didn't think so myself. Or you can let out a most triumphant huzzah, which is paired with a hand gesture. Ball up your fist like so, rear it back, and punch it straight into the heavens, yelling, huzzah!
Huzzah!
And as this is politics, you may hear something you disagree with, so you can stomp your feet or bang upon the pews, but you may let out a boo! Or a hiss, like a den of angry servants. Or you can let out our most offensive word, and this is fi, F-I-E. And it's paired with an equally rude hand gesture, of which I'll teach to you right now. You will stick out your thumb like so, plant it upon your nose, raise the flag, wave the flag, and turn to whomever you'd like to permanently offend, saying, "Fire!" Now, without further ado, my friends, I'd like to introduce to you an ardent patriot, a son of liberty, and a friend to us all, Mr. Samuel Adams!
Mrs. Palmer, and good day to you all.
Good day!
Indeed, but I wish we were here on better circumstances. You see, we are gathered here today to discuss yet another crisis enforced upon us by Parliament, supposedly on behalf of our monarch, King George III. Out in the Boston Harbor are 3 ships, the Eleanor, the Dartmouth, and the brig Beaver, and their holds are bursting with 340 crates of East India Company tea. Indeed, friends, and under the law, each of these vessels has 20 days to unload its cargo and pay the duty or tax upon the tea, and tomorrow marks the 20th day for the ship Dartmouth, making this body of the people all the more important. This marks our final chance to effect these events in our favor! Earlier this day, it was requested that the ship's owner, Francis Roach, obtain word from our, let's call him our esteemed Royal Governor Thomas Hutchinson. Yes, a man who abandoned the cause of the people years ago. Yet he, curiously, is the only man that can grant these vessels a pass to allow them to return to England without unloading their pernicious cargo. Mr. Roach left several hours ago. We anxiously await his return and cling to the hope that the governor will listen to reason. For if that cargo is unloaded, then it is you, the good citizens of Boston, who will be forced to pay this unjust tax on tea. Now, it is important to note that this is not the first time Parliament has taxed us like this, and without our consent. It was only 8 short years ago, in 1765, Lord Grenville saw fit to tax our letters, our newspapers, indeed, all of our printed materials under the Stamp Acts. And on the issues of those Stamp Acts, many were outraged, many set to the streets rioting and such. It was the 60s, my friends. But others took to town meetings such as these to voice their opinions, such as our dear friend, Mr. Thomas Porter. Mr. Porter, are you with us today? Thomas Porter? There you are.
Yes.
Yeah, now, Mr. Porter, you have always been outspoken on the issues of taxation, so what say you on those Stamp Acts?
Parliament not only taxed our paper and ink, they've even taxed our playing cards and dice.
Oh, Parliament, indeed, that because of your gambling habit, yes? Yes, of course. Tax on fun, I agree, Mr. Porter. And we were told that these taxes were meant to pay our debts from the French and Indian War. But I hold that we have repaid these debts 1,000 times over. After all, it was our fathers, our brothers, our sons who fought alongside the king's army during that war. And so I say if there was ever a price to be paid, we all did so at the expense of blood. And on that good New England blood, patriots, this is a price we have paid far too often, isn't it, Boston? Lest we forget those 5 innocent Bostonians who were gunned down on King Street in March of 1770. Massacred by the very British regulars who were sent to protect our streets. What a fine job they did at that. But thanks to the work of my cousin John Adams, we gave those men a fair trial. And I am proud to say that the entire 29th Regiment was soon recalled thereafter, but Boston. The recall of 1 regiment alone is not enough. No, I say nothing short of an entire evacuation by all those bloody-backed troops will be enough to satisfy the public mind and preserve the peace. Yes, but our cries, as loud and valiant as they may be, are not being heard by those in Parliament. After the Stamp Acts were repealed, those in Parliament next saw fit to pinch our pewter candlesticks, our lead, our glass, our paint, yes, our tea. All taxed under a man who we thought was our friend in Parliament. But how wrong we were to trust in Lord Charles Townshend. Indeed, now, Mr. Porter, your anger has been echoed by many others as well, including a Mr. James Brewer. Mr. Brewer, are you here with us? Oh, there you are, Mr. Brewer. Now, before you go off on another... I saw that during the Townshend Act you needed to replace your windows, and with this tax on glass, how did you manage to pay for them?
I did not pay for them. I was forced to choose between new windows or putting food in my family's bellies.
Outrageous indeed. My sincerest apologies, Mr. Brewer. What a terrible choice for someone to have to make, especially such a young father like yourself.
Hear, hear.
And in response to outrages such as these, our merchants banded together. We signed non-importation agreements, stating that we would no longer buy or sell any of these unjustly taxed goods. Yes, and the women of Boston, the Daughters of Liberty, joined together as well, signing non-consumption agreements, stating that these goods would never enter their homes. My friend, that's right, it is by your united efforts, through your united resolves, you, the people of Boston, have forced many of these Townshend duties to be repealed. But there appears to be an ever-growing hole in the purse of the English treasury, and, well, now their greedy eyes have turned to our tea. If Lord North wishes to force a 3 penny per pound tax upon tea, simply to signify the supremacy of Parliament and its supposed right to tax the colonies, well, then I say we have a right to demand representation there, yes? The Magna Carta of 1215, our Charter of 1691. Patriots, these are the very founts of our British liberties, and they make it clear that no British subject can be taxed without consent of their representative. And if they expect us to pay taxes like an Englishman, to go to war and fight like an Englishman, then we deserve the same basic rights as Englishmen. And if they strip us of our basic rights to representation, then they have no rights to force more duties upon us. And we, Boston, have no more duties to pay. We must all cling to the spirited words of James Otis, the ones that echoed from the State House Square, and rang through these beloved colonies like a trumpet from heaven. And if you know the words, you may say them with me, Boston. Taxation without representation is tyranny. And the time for petition, the time for compromise is over. Huzzah! Now, my friends, this...
Word is in.
Thank you, Mrs. Palmer. Friends, this is the news we've been waiting for. And it says that the governor is willing to grant anything consistent with the laws and his duty to the king, but orders that the vessels cannot leave unless the cargo is unloaded as the law demands. And Boston, what say you all to this? There you have it. Our governor has refused to send this tea back to England. He has refused every petition, every course and recourse to an amicable solution, and he has forced our hand. Now the time has come for you, the people of Boston, to decide what to do here. And that is why I turn to you, Mrs. Palmer. Yes, you have done an excellent job at leading this meeting so far. Wouldn't you say so, friends? Yeah! And I think it's time for your voice to be heard as well. What do you think we should do tonight?
Well, if you're asking me, Mr. Adams, I say that a little bit of salt water and tea shall mix this night. And what say all of you? Do you want to destroy the king's tea?
Then let's put it to a formal vote. All those in favor of destroying the tea, say aye. Aye! All those opposed, no? Great, moving on. We have a mighty mob on our hands. But let me warn you, friends, if you destroy this tea tonight, well, you may be subject to arrest. Yes, our families, those that harbor us, will be subject to the fullest penalties of the law, and therefore we must do our very best to conceal our identities this night.
And how shall we do that, sir?
Cloaks and blankets shall suffice, but along with that, let us use a symbol known to all those in the North American colonies. Our unique symbol, fearsome and independent, the symbol of the Mohawk. Now carry these with you with pride, and rally to Griffin's Wharf, patriots! Huzzah! It is clear there is nothing more a meeting can do to save this country.
Now, friends, don your disguises, gather all of your belongings. We will not be returning to the Old South Meeting House. Instead, on to Griffin's Wharf. Huzzah!
Huzzah! Thank you, one and all. Enjoy your treason this evening, friends. Worry,